A single photograph turned a quiet New Year's Eve into the loudest conversation of the week. Welcome to Whispers of Turkish Stars. If you're new here, tap subscribe and stay close, because tonight's story begins where the music was soft, the lights were warm, and the whispers were louder than any fireworks. While the world chased glittering galas and dramatic midnight kisses, Demet Özdemir chose something else. A small circle at home, a handful of trusted faces, and a message that cut through every rumor that had been swirling for weeks. And at the heart of those rumors, one name kept floating to the surface: Can Yaman. So what shifted on this carefully curated night? Why did the weeks of reunion buzz around Demet Özdemir and Can Yaman suddenly feel like a balloon losing air? How did a few quiet words, "My heart is empty," echo across the gossip universe with the force of a confession? And what was that unexpected musical moment she gifted at the end of the party, the one that had fans reading between every line? We're diving into the intimate corners of that night, the guest list crafted to keep the noise out, the missing presence that said more than any appearance could, and the song that became a mirror. Push aside the champagne flutes and let's look closely at the subtle decisions that made this New Year's Eve impossible to ignore. Demet Özdemir entered the new year with no signature couple photo and no elaborate red carpet. She didn't feed the spectacle. She built a sanctuary. The party was private but purposeful, a living room glowing in amber, friends who know how to laugh without shouting, and a playlist that avoided the obvious. But in a celebration where every detail was a decision, what wasn't there mattered as much as what was. No romantic snapshot. No side-by-side shot at midnight. No hint of a reunion under twinkling lights. If an empty frame had been placed in the room, it would have been shaped like a single name: Can Yaman. That absence wasn't hostile, it was definitive. It signaled something that the tabloids never liked to hear: the story they were pushing had hit a wall. Because in that home, on that night, there was joy, nostalgia, a touch of mischief, everything except a love narrative. The cameras taken out by her friends were careful. The images shared afterward were warmer than professional shoots, yet curated with the care of someone who knows the power of a picture and the weight of a caption. And this is where the night began to tell on itself. For weeks, the conversation had been relentless. Some said they'd seen a glance here or a crossing of paths there, that the electricity between Demet Özdemir and Can Yaman wasn't just a memory but a fuse waiting to be lit. Others insisted that the spark was purely cinematic, born on a set and left there when the lights went down. Through it all, Demet stayed quiet, and Can, with his globe-trotting schedule, remained a silhouette flickering between continents. It was only on New Year's Eve that the silence grew teeth. A friend whispered that she heard Demet say it more than once, gently but firmly, like a mantra guiding her into the year: "My heart is completely empty right now." A phrase so simple it could be ignored. But in the right room, at the right time, it takes on gravity. When the line surfaced online, it ricocheted. Headlines tried to twist it into a wound, but those who were listening closely heard something steadier: a choice. Social media transformed into a magnifying glass. People tracked not just what Demet wore, soft fabrics, unshowy elegance, but what she chose not to put on. No jewelry with hidden initials, no coded trinkets, no sly reference to a man who wasn't there. They froze frames to count the faces at the table, then circled back to the same conclusion: this was a circle of friends, not a couple's unveiling. Questions flooded timelines. Why was she alone at midnight? Was solitude a statement? And each time, the same answer fought for space, not loneliness, intention. If you've been watching Demet Özdemir's path over the past year, none of this should feel like a twist. Long gone is the era when she could be boxed into soft romances on screen and softer expectations off it. She's been stepping into characters that bite, narratives with teeth, and arcs that let her body the ache without collapsing under it. The rumor mill tried to repaint the canvas with a simple reunion story, anchoring it to the familiar name of Can Yaman, because the public still remembers their chemistry like a secret they think they own. But the current of her choices kept pulling in a different direction, toward craft, toward risk, toward a track she writes herself. Behind that closed-door celebration, there was a surprise no one saw coming. As the clock crawled past midnight and the laughter dissolved into a hush, Demet did something that startled even the friends who know her well. She took the microphone. She didn't announce, she didn't dramatize. She just breathed in and let something new spill out. A song unreleased, unheard, unteased. Phones came out. Not in a frenzy, but reverently. The kind of moment that makes a room feel shared, like everyone is a co-conspirator in a secret. A few hours later, while the city slept off its fireworks, a link went live. The song appeared on YouTube, not wrapped in a campaign, not padded with a big PR push, but offered like a letter slipped under a door. And then came the real debate: to whom did that letter belong? Fans pressed their ears to the lyrics and tried to unlock them with one key. They asked if the lines about rebirth and solitude, the places where the melody turned inward and then opened like a window, were written as a message to Kenyaman. Was it a goodbye, a ghost, a hand waved across a distance too long to span in one night? Columnists who love a cleaner answer tried to stamp it. But those who know her rhythms caught the pulse. The song did not plead. It did not blame. It did not throw confetti over a false ending. It sounded like a conversation Demet had with herself, measured, sacred, unafraid to be quiet where the world wanted noise. In that way, it felt like both an ending and a prelude, less about shutting a door on Can and more about opening a window in the room where she lives. The comments section became a chorus. You could hear the words that mattered in the waves of praise. This voice isn't loneliness, it's strength. No love in the frame, yet it's full of light. Her most honest work so far. A line drawn, an era closed. Not scornful, not hungry for scandal, just watchers recognizing growth like a skyline changing. And yet, there's no denying the gravity of the name that lingered around the edges of the night. Kenyaman didn't need to be present to be present. He was the silhouette in the doorway, the unfilled seat. The rumor threads that have tugged at both of their names for years twisted into intricate theories. Some said the absence speaks of respect, that when bonds are complicated and private, silence is the kindest language. Others swore the gap was a pause before a re-entry, because old chemistry doesn't dissolve, it buries itself and waits. But the clearer reading was right in front of us. She did not center the night around a man. Not even one who knows what her laughter sounds like in a room without microphones. If the industry has shifted how it frames Demet Özdemir, it's because she's rewired the conversation herself. Months ago, you could mention her name and the first question would be about her heart, not her craft. Today, the order is reversed. What character will she carve next? What sound will she risk next? What mold will crack in her hands because she refuses to wear it twice? The tabloids will still tug her toward familiar headlines. Especially when the other half of the public's favorite speculation is as magnetic as Kenyaman, but a current stronger than gossip has grabbed hold. And there is another layer worth saying out loud. The version of Ken that people project onto her story has been busy working in his own right, navigating an international schedule, crossing borders as often as he crosses genres, building a persona that doesn't wait for permission. Their names draw parallel lines on the same map. It's easier to write them intersecting in a neon reunion than to respect the space between two people who once felt like a promise and now feel like a past that taught them both how to move forward. So when she said, "My heart is empty," the room didn't shrink. It expanded. It made room for ambition, for the kind of hunger that has nothing to do with hand-holding. It made space for the kind of bravery that isn't theatrical, that looks like staying home when the world wants you to dress up your doubt and parade it on a carpet. It made space for the quiet discipline of choosing a path no one can hijack with a headline about Kenyaman or a pre-written script the public wants to see played out. The snapshot that started this storm captured more than a face in soft light. It captured a posture. Spine straight, voice clear even when whispered, a smile that didn't apologize. In the days that followed, all those fragments, the curated guest list, the empty space where a couple photo would have gone, the unanticipated song, wove themselves into a new pattern. And that pattern pointed away from the carousel and towards something steadier. Listen closely to that song and you'll hear the editorial note the tabloids missed. The lyrics do not close the door on affection. They just refuse to make room for the old architecture. Love is not banished, it's reframed. If it returns, it will be invited in through a front door that has a new lock. If it doesn't, the house still stands. That's why the night felt like both a confession and a coronation. Because in a cultural landscape that measures a woman's glow by the name on her arm, Demet Özdemir chose to illuminate herself. And yes, the world will keep placing her beside Can Yaman in the margins of every article, because memory is sticky and fans are romantic. But the main text is different now, and it's written in her hand. New year, new math. Empty heart, full horizon. Clear goals, soft edges. The energy she carried into 2026 wasn't defiance in leather, it was grace with steel in its spine. It was a refusal to perform a reunion for the cameras just because the public loves symmetry. It was the freedom to acknowledge what once was with Can, to let nostalgia be sweet without letting it be in charge, and to move forward without turning her back on anyone. There is a difference between closing a chapter and burning a book. She seems to understand that better than anyone writing about her. From here, the gossip cycle will keep testing her. A coffee sighting will be minted into a headline. A shared event will be spun into destiny. A night apart will be translated as proof. But the blueprint laid down at that New Year's gathering is simple. The center holds. The career leads. The music tells truths that do not require footnotes. And if a story with Can Yaman is ever meant to be revisited, it will not be because the crowd kept chanting, it will be because two people, in private, decided to knock on a familiar door and see if the handle still turns. Until then, the photograph and the phrase will keep doing their work. They will remind anyone who asks that absence can be eloquent, that a woman can mean exactly what she says when she says her heart is empty, and that emptiness is not a vacancy sign, it's an open studio where something new is built. That's why, more than any red carpet spectacle, this quiet party left a mark. It said a lot without saying too much. It gave the tabloids enough to write about but not enough to rewrite her. It placed Can in the story without using him as a plot device. It held contradictions gently and still chose a direction. What do you hear in it? Do you believe Demet Özdemir's heart is truly empty, or do you hear the footfall of something approaching from far away? Was the song a farewell to an old idea of love, or a prologue to a different kind of beginning? Is this silence the calm that lasts, or the hush before some future thunder? Tell us below. And if you want more moments like this, moments where fame steps out of its costume and speaks plainly, like the video, subscribe to Whispers of Turkish Stars, and ring that bell. We're here for the stories between the stories. One last thing before we close the book on this night. When the clock struck 12 and everyone in the room leaned in, Demet did something telling. She didn't look around to see who was watching. She looked forward. And in that tiny movement was an answer to every question swirling around her name and his. Maybe there was no love story in that living room. But there was balance. There was peace. There was a woman who didn't need a duet to fill the air. There was the steady hum of a life that keeps its own time. She didn't point, didn't accuse, didn't underline the absence of Can Yaman with theatrics. She simply allowed the story to write itself on a smaller page and trusted that anyone who needed to read it would. And judging by the way the world reacted, you read it. Loud and clear. The message that remains when the music fades is the simplest of all: I'm here. And right now, that's enough.